Welcome to the final day of the 2025 American Gem Trade Association Tucson Inspire Seminar Series, sponsored by the American Gem Society. From science to social media, how trade media engages with and covers the jewelry industry. Moderator, me, Gary Roskin, Roskin Gem News, and our panelists, Palke from GIA, Eileen McClelland from INSTORE magazine, Brendan Laurs from the Journal of Gemmology, and Jennifer Heebner, AGTA, RapNet, INSTORE, Professional Jeweler, Prism. Did I miss one?
I think that's it for now.
For now, okay. Dr. Palke developed an interest in minerals and gemstones, searching for agates and other minerals in eastern Montana. He was particularly struck by the geographical distribution of mineral and gem deposits and geological features. For instance, why were there mountains and an abundance of mineral deposits in Montana, but not in his home state of Oklahoma? These questions led Dr. Palke to pursue a formal education in geology, obtaining a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Tulsa and a PhD from Stanford University. Aaron began his gemmological career as a postdoc research associate at the Gemmological Institute of America, where he is now the senior manager of colored stone research. In his role, Dr. Palke leads GIA's research efforts into geographic origin determination for rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and other colored stones, as well as improving criteria for the identification of treatments for colored stones. Dr. Palke is a regular contributor to Gems and Gemmology magazine, serves on the journal's editorial review board, and has acted as a guest editor for 2 special issues of the journal so far. Eileen McClelland is managing editor for INSTORE, the magazine for North American jewelry store owners. Eileen's primary responsibilities include managing the America's Coolest Stores contest and writing cover stories, cool store articles, and other content for which she's won numerous awards, including the prestigious Neal Award for the cover story, New Rules of Marketing. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Eileen graduated from the Honors College of Kent State University in Ohio with a bachelor's degree in journalism. Prior to her 2007 arrival at INSTORE, she was a copy editor and arts and entertainment writer for the Houston Chronicle in Houston, Texas, and features editor for the Naples Daily News in Naples, Florida. Brendan Laurs, MS, FGA, GG, any other titles I need to throw? Is editor-in-chief of the Journal of Gemmology, published by the GEMA, the Gemmological Association of Great Britain. He is based in San Diego and is a gemologist and geologist specializing in the formation of colored gemstone deposits. Brendan developed an early interest in geology while exploring the gem-bearing pegmatites in San Diego County. He obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in geology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and a Master of Science degree in geology from Oregon State University. His MS thesis and post-grad studies were focused on pegmatite-related gem deposits, emerald and tourmaline, in northern Pakistan. Brendan briefly worked as an exploration geologist for colored gemstones, benitoite and red beryl, with Kennecott Exploration, and then was employed at GIA as an editor of Gems and Gemmology from 1997 to 2012. He has studied and reported on colored stone deposits worldwide, including various localities in Africa, Madagascar, Brazil, Asia, and in the US. Jennifer Heebner has covered the jewelry industry for more than 26 years as a writer, editor, and trend follower. She is the editor-in-chief of AGTA's Prism magazine and newsletter, as well as a contributing writer and design awards contest director for INSTORE. Heebner also contributes to Rapaport and Professional Jeweler magazine. Jennifer recently served as executive director of the Cultured Pearl Association of America and is the founder of its #ThisIsPearl magazine. Jennifer was a senior editor with JCK Magazine for 19 years. And I am your moderator, Gary Roskin. I'm a graduate gemologist from GIA, a fellow of the Gemmological Association of Great Britain, former assistant to the director of the GIA's Gem Trade Laboratory in Los Angeles, former assistant director of the European Gem Lab in downtown Los Angeles, the last senior gemstone editor for JCK Magazine, not my fault, the last senior gemstone editor for the Basel World Daily News, not my fault. The former CEO of the ICA, the International Colored Gemstone Association, and now the editor-in-chief of the Roskin Gem News Report, a biweekly newsletter and online gem news magazine. Please give a warm welcome to our panel. So I'd like to kind of open up the discussion here on stage and let each one of our panelists talk a little bit about how they really got into this to begin with. Aaron, should we start with you?
Sure. I'm maybe a little different from most of the other panelists here. I'm technically in the research department at GIA, but that being said, I have a lot of interaction with the Gems and Gemmology team. So the Gems and Gemmology is our quarterly journal. That's the journal I mostly interact with. And like I said, my biggest kind of interaction with them is diving into it with 2 special issues where I was the guest editor, haranguing authors and writing articles and making sure everything was kind of in line and on schedule and all that stuff. The latest one was the winter 24 issue. So go grab that. It's really great. It's about advanced instrumentation. It goes over all the details of like how GIA analyzes stones that come in the lab for reports. Beyond that, I'm on the editorial review board with Gems and Gemmology, and they rely on me. My work with them is oftentimes very informal. Like they rely on me very much for technical consultations and advice on like which articles should we roll with, which ones does it seem reasonable for publishing in Gems and Gemmology. I write a couple columns in there as well and contribute regularly with papers. So, and I will likely only interact with them even more now that Stuart Overland has left us and there's no kind of editor right now, managing editor of Gems and Gemmology. So
okay.
I have to buckle up.
So you're there, and everybody, and he's leaving, and they're saying, well, since you're here, let's just push you into writing a little bit more, editing more.
I mean, no one's told me, but I assume that's what's going to happen.
So you didn't get hired at GIA to do this sort of thing, did
Correct.
you?
No. So I'm hired mostly as a research scientist. So I'm supposed to be doing research projects, figuring out how to detect treatments. I mostly do colored stones, do origin determination better, operate machinery, like all of our equipment. I run a lot of the equipment and make sure it's all operating properly. So that's like my main job, and then the editing journal stuff is kind of like the stuff I do at night at home on my laptop when I have time.
Okay. Eileen?
Hi, I've kind of fell into jewelry journalism. I was a journalist since I was in high school, working for newspapers. And my last job was with the Houston Chronicle. I did a lot of different kinds of feature writing. But before that, I had worked for the Naples Daily News in Florida, where I met a friend who was a coworker who later moved to Bangkok and wound up getting a job with INSTORE, which was still pretty much based in Bangkok. They were only starting to add U.S. editors. So then I began to freelance. My first freelance assignments were cool stores, which was a lot of fun for me. And I learned on the job, and I was hired later that year as a full-time editor when Trace Shelton was assigned to another duty. So then we had 2 U.S. editors who could go to trade shows and actually meet people.
So forgive me for pointing this out, but you're the journalist up here. College trained, learned journalist up here.
Previous newspaper person.
And the rest of us sort of fell into it.
I got out.
Yeah.
I got out just in time.
Brenda?
Right after I,
sorry.
right after I went to INSTORE, there started to be massive layoffs at the Houston Chronicle. So the timing couldn't have been better, and I just loved the jewelry industry from the beginning, and I was able to learn on the job.
Yeah, falling into it is exactly what I did too. It wasn't something I was planning or ever aspiring to do. But I started at GIA, actually was hired as an instructor who could teach more about the geology, crystal structure, and mineralogy of gems, since that was more my background. And so I was actually taking the GG course, and while I was taking that and kind of getting up to speed, I just finished that exploration project for bonitite you mentioned with Kennecott, and I had all this great data, and I asked them, hey, would you guys mind if I published on this? And they said, no, go ahead, because Alice Keller, the editor of the journal, had approached me and said, well, how would you like to do an article on bonitite, you know? So I wrote this article, and it's like the second article I've ever wrote for publication, and I thought, oh, they're gonna trash it, you know. And she took the article and she said, oh, he can write. And the next thing I know is she stole me from education and brought me over to G&G, saying, you know, hey, we got this position. The editor that had just come down from Santa Monica decided he didn't want to stay there. They had an opening. So I decided, okay, I'll give it a shot and see how it goes. And I never had any formal training. My mom's an English teacher, so I always had my grammar corrected, but that was the extent of it. But yeah, so anyway, that's how it all started, and then just kind of learned by experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen?
I got an English degree at Immaculata College, and everyone said, what are you going to do with an English degree? And I said, well, I don't know, I'll figure it out. I just liked writing, so I got a job at a college at Chilton Publishing Company, which was a publisher of many different trade magazines, and I wrote about collision repair first, and then auto body, it was collision repair, then industrial safety and hygiene news. Very sexy title. But a lot of really smart people. It just, the trades were fascinating because you could just do this deep dive and talk to all these really smart people about one topic. And then I eventually moved to jewelry, and I just never left. I love the people. Head of Shoepack, God rest her soul. She was a wonderful boss. And Gary, very good to me and taught me, answered all my questions about gemstones and was really a mentor to me. JCK was a wonderful place. So I spent 19 years there, and the publishing industry changed, and I got laid off from JCK about 7 years ago. And thank goodness everyone else, all the other trades, reached out to me, Rapaport and the jewelry book at the time. And so everyone else reached out and offered me work. So, you write about jewelry for 19 years, like what am I going to do now? So, but thank goodness enough good people. I think I've worked for every single organization in this industry, and thank you all for keeping me employed. So it's just a wonderful place, and I'm grateful to still have meaningful work here. So it's great.
And like almost everybody up here, except for Eileen, who actually went to school and learned journalism, I went to Northwestern and walked by the School of Journalism every day and thought I'd never need that. It was sometime in the mid to late 1990s, and JCK, the staff at JCK, about 75% of the staff, got up and walked out to form their own publication called Professional Jeweler. And they needed a gemstone editor, and at the same time, I was talking to the then retired editor-in-chief, George Holmes. And I was talking to him about another topic, and about 2 days later, he called me up and he says, so what do you think of Pennsylvania? Because that's where JCK Magazine was based. And after a long discussion, George ended up hiring me as the gemstone editor. Never had any real writing experience whatsoever, but because of the gemstone background, they took me in and they edited all my work, and since then it's been It's been great. It's been a great way to get into journalism and writing about gemstones. So when you are putting together the publications that you write for, what is it that you look for in a feature for your publication? What is it that makes that feature say to you, this is good for G&G, or this is good for the journal? I'm going to stick to you two guys for the moment. What do you look for in a great article for your publications?
Well, I definitely look for something that's new that hasn't already been written about, or taking a new approach to a problem, if, reporting on a new treatment or something like that, a new locality, something that you can't just get information anywhere else from, and that people who read the journal want to see it as like a source of first-hand information. And so it has to be combined with the right topic, but also something that's written of the quality that can get through the review process, which can be quite rigorous. So I would say those two things are the first that come to mind for me.
Aaron?
Very similar to Brendan. I guess I would say one thing with Gems and Gemmologies, for the most part, we're not really soliciting articles. We're not asking people to write certain things. We're always relying on people to supply things to us. But
same here, yeah.
That being said, G&G is a GIA publication, so a lot of what we have is articles from GIA researchers. Mm-hmm. So they see it as a very good venue for publishing their cutting-edge research, because this is the place where our lab clients and other people who are interested in GIA will see what we're doing in the lab at GIA. So, but also the other part of that is it's not just GIA researchers. So we actually have a pretty good mix of GIA and non-GIA folks. But like Brendan said, things that are timely, things that are relevant, and it gets a little difficult because the review process takes quite a long time oftentimes, but things that people will look back at, in a decade or 2 decades as a reference for the research that they're going to be doing in gemmology, down the line. So.
Is there a topic or a theme that you're looking specifically for? I mean, you said new finds. Is that the biggest, most important issue that you would want article that you would want to see up front?
No, not necessarily. I think treatments are always a hot topic because they have so much economic impact and what people are buying and selling and representing in the trade. But besides that, I don't think there's one single particular emphasis. Gemmology is such a wide-ranging topic, and if it's something that there aren't a lot of things that are still cutting edge and new, so you can't limit yourself too much, or you're not going to have any articles.
Yeah. Eileen and Jen, your magazines, your publications that you write for, totally different than what Brendan and Aaron are working with. They're more the science end of gemmology. You're more the wholesale retail consumer end of things. So what is it that you look for that really sparks an interest and says, yes, that's going to be a really good article to write about or an article to use in the publication? Eileen?
Well, INSTORE is very focused on independent retailers, and we write a lot of how-to stories, how to do your social media, what's going on with independent retailers when it comes to AI are a couple things I'm working on this year. And Jen is writing a story on how to make your repair center a profit center in your jewelry store. So that's part of it, but we also try to be really entertaining. So we come up with stories every year, like the latest one was December, talking about alter egos, jewelers' alter egos, and we got responses ranging from the character Donna on Suits to Moses and Darth Vader. So that's a lot of fun. But there was also an educational element I learned. I did research on alter egos and what they can bring to your effectiveness at work. So I learned that it was both fun and informative, and I was happy to share that with our readers.
So are you writing most of the features then?
Right. Most of the cover stories, Jen helps me. and I write most of the cool stores. And there's a feature called Best of the Best, so we're looking for retailers who are doing interesting things with marketing, events,
Do you ever
inventions.
accept articles from
We
other
do.
journals?
Well, we do have industry columnists primarily. We don't have a huge freelance budget.
Okay. Jen?
For AGTA, I'm laser focused on the membership and anything that the membership is interested in. And you have to be, pretty much have to be a member to be featured. So, and for example, in the printed magazine, we only do 2 issues a year. And it's structured, you know, all around the membership. We have a firm member profile, we have an affiliate member profile. We have a section, unfortunately not in this issue, it's called Map the Mine, where I talk to a mine owner about the challenges of what it takes to bring material to market, and that's really, you know, very interesting. Then we have a cutter profile. When I joined AGTA a couple of years ago, I felt like, wow, the cutters don't get a whole lot of attention. There's some incredible ones. So this is a great place to do that. The membership cares. Half the membership are cutters. So it's really all about celebrating the membership. And as far as features, in the issue that's here at the show, it's all about the Spectrum Award winners. So that's the cover story. Those are the pieces on the cover. And then the cover story, that's it. It's all the winners. So it's really a big photo, you know, pages and pages of pictures of winners. In the Vegas issue, that's open for, you know, for a piece of journalism. So 2 years ago, I wrote The Paper Chase, and I loved that. It was all about the reliance on lab reports, and they are lab reports, not certificates. So, and how people call them, you refer to them as lab reports, and how much they affect the chain, you know, the prices. And it's just very interesting, all the anecdotes. I'm here to celebrate the membership. They're the experts in this field. So casting a spotlight on topics of interest to them and serious topics that people can learn from. So, and then of course, you know, talking to GIA and all, you know, anyone who can offer an intelligent, you know, perspective on the piece. So that was great. Last year we did a survey of the members. This year we're going to write about, for the Vegas issue, we'll do a feature on the rise of color. And of course, because lab-grown prices, mine prices, you know, have dropped, and then we see more interest in color. So that's something I've been writing about a little bit all year, but we'll do a bigger take on it. And then every week in ePrism, it's what the members are interested in. It's auction results. It's analysis of, you know, what does this mean? The emerald prices or commercial prices were down from this auction. What does this mean for us? What does this mean? The big stone furra that sold, is it going to affect other ruby prices, and, you know, things like that. Anything. I like to say the membership, they like the nerdy topics. You know, they don't want like the mainstream trades. At JCK, I used to do a lot of designer coverage, and you write straight news things. Someone can send you a press release. I don't take press releases and turn it into an article. They want this audience, they want real content. So it's interviews every week, it's connecting with authorities and talking about things that are important to them. And then at Rapaport, I do features. So I'll write about diamonds for them, I'll write about, you know, whatever topic they want to throw at me, something retail. I wrote about knockoffs, trademark, how Ray Griffith protects his designs with a valid and reinforced trademark. So, yeah, I can write about anything. So, and I do for a little bit for all the publications. But it's mainly news, and like here at the shows, I'm casting onto social media new things that I haven't seen before. I am not a gemologist, but I know, you know, all the important guys, and that's what I'm here to serve, is this trade. So I talk to them, what's new, what are you seeing, what's coming out of the mine. So I may report on, you know, a new mine find, and it's like a more news article. And then of course GIA is going to go in depth on it and what it means and all the important aspects of it. But I'm like a first-line person here at the shows, and connecting, this person's found this, and you know, that's good for social media. That's good for show reports and things. I'll write 3 show reports for various outlets after the Tucson shows are over, and they all want little slight variations of things. So there's a lot of way to slice and dice the information that comes out of these shows in this industry.
With Prism Magazine, are you the sole writer for those articles? Or?
I am. We only print 2 issues a year. I've had some freelance in the past, but it's so manageable for me to, it's only 2 issues a year. You send out the questions, we have a whole process, and it's very, it's very organized, and it's very easy for me to put it together. And I want the members to be comfortable, and we fact check everything thoroughly. So yeah, I'll put it together over a couple months, and it's just all me.
Brendan, how many articles do you write, or are they all submitted by other?
I would say 99% are all submitted as far as feature articles.
Yeah.
But then we have a section called Gem Notes, which is smaller, little bite-sized articles, usually 700 words max. And I tend to write a fair amount of those, or co-write with other people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's the vetting process? I mean, somebody submits an article, and what does that have to go through to actually get published?
So Gem Notes aren't vetted, but all feature articles that are published in the journal have been vetted by at least 3 experts in the field. It's the peer review process, which is dreaded by some and embraced by others. Depends on who you are. But generally what we have if you look at the inside cover of the journal, and you look at the list of associate editors, those are the core people that we take as our reviewers. And then based on the topic that we're looking at, I may go outside of that list of people and find 3 different experts in the field. Give them about 3 weeks or so to review an article, send their comments. I have a standard form they fill out, whether they want to reject the article or if it should be accepted with major changes, accepted with minor changes, or accept as is. And by the way, we never get accept as is. There's always work to be done. And then we'll give the authors a chance then to address the reviewer comments. And depending on how speedy they are, the process can take a long time because oftentimes our authors are they're not paid. They're not doing this as part of their day jobs. They're doing it as their night work and whatnot. So eventually, when they send us back the corrections, then depending on the first round, we'll either send it out for another round of review, or we'll then start editing the article from the editing standpoint, looking at making sure all the parts are there that need to be there, that the expressions, the English expression is good, especially for authors who don't speak English as a first language, which is quite a few. We deal with a lot of authors from Europe and China, and English isn't their first language. So we help quite a bit with the language as well.
Do the reviewers know that they don't have to correct grammar?
Yes. In fact, we specifically mentioned that. And one thing I should mention is that the review process is also double blind, meaning the authors don't know who the reviewers are, and the reviewers don't know who the authors are. Although, having said that, it's a pretty small world, and oftentimes you have reviewers who know somebody's working on something, and they know who it is. But that generally, that process allows people to speak a little more freely and about how they feel about an article, rather than being worried about, oh, so-and-so's not going to like me if I say this. Or,
Aaron, same sort of question. Do you do much of the writing for Gems and Gemmology? I mean, you mentioned a story here and there, but on average?
On average, I probably write, I'm either a lead author or co-author on maybe 1 article a year, at least 1 or 2 articles a year. I write, our format's very similar to Brendan's Journal of Gemmology. We have the feature articles, and we have other sections in the journal, like our lab note section, which is things from the laboratory which are interesting and new. We have Gem News International, which is like the Gem Notes that Brendan mentioned, where it's something new in the gem industry, little write-ups on new deposits or new treatments, these sorts of things. And then Microworld, some new columns we have in the Spotlight and Color Stones on Earth, which I'm column editor for. So that happens twice a year. So I guess I do that one twice a year with Dr. Jim Shigley. But yeah, the format's very similar, and the vetting process is very similar. So mostly it's other authors coming in, either from GA or from other institutions, and we do the peer review process. And so that's usually 2 or 3 peer reviewers. We used to do double blind. We don't do double blind anymore so much. I guess we kind of expect people to, like Brendan said, people usually know who your peer reviewer was anyway. You can tell by their tone, or if they're particularly curmudgeonly or a little on the nicer side. You kind of have an idea because there's there's a relatively limited range of people you can get. I'm sure Brendan knows about that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, essentially the same, very, very similar process.
Are the notes section in the back of the magazine, are they peer reviewed, or how do they get vetted?
So the note sections like the Lab Notes and the Gem News International, those have section editors. And so they're not peer reviewed necessarily, but it's a lot of the, so the Lab Notes we have section editors from GIA because they're about stones that came through the lab in GIA. Gem News International, I think we have one person, Mike Breeding, from internal, and we have a couple other people as section editors for that. And so they'll go through it and they'll see if something is egregiously wrong. They'll do kind of like a mini peer review thing, and if they need to get some outside counsel, they'll come to one of the other researchers at GIA to see if things are kosher.
All right. You never use ChatGPT to see if it's correct.
I've not tried, but I mean, it's an idea.
Just kidding. All right. What do your readers expect to see? How do you keep them engaged? What is it that you get a bunch of articles, or you think you have the main piece and you put it on the front page, or you put it up front, and you think this is really going to be a great issue for them, or you look at it and say, I need something else to go first. How do you look at that, and how do you go about choosing? Let's start with Jen. We'll come this way.
Just constantly talk to your reader. You have to serve your reader constantly, because if you're not, they're not going to read your publication. So I'm constantly asking people, what is it that you want to read? Most people don't know, but I'm still asking them because I want them to remember. And I say, look, if there is a problem you're having, if there is an issue you'd like us to examine, tell me. I don't want to hear, you're doing a great job. Just, I really care about specific issues that are important to you, because that's why the trade exists, to serve the trade, to help people run their businesses better. So I'm just constantly asking people those questions.
Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, as Aaron was saying too, we rely on a lot of articles just coming over the transom, so to speak. So when you're in a position like that and you're not doing like special issues and things, it's kind of hard to orchestrate, a preferred topic. But what I really try to do is at least have a balance of topics in every issue, so there's something for everyone. Be that, if it's colored stones, we don't get as many diamond articles, but something that has to do with, more of the gem locality aspect, something more with the gem material aspect. And then, it's the different formats too. Like the articles can be very technical, and some of the articles are very, lots of spectra and things that aren't always that easy to wade through. But we try to balance that with, shorter gem notes, which are more pretty pictures of things and interesting news about things, and try to make it just useful to everybody, even if it's technical. So.
Yeah. Eileen?
Trace Shelton, the executive editor, and I plan the stories for the whole year. We sit down once a year and outline the year, what it's going to look like, based on what we've learned from attending trade shows and talking to retailers, what we think is topical. Like we had talked about doing a story on AI in 2024, but Trace wanted to wait to see how retailers were actually using it, because it seems like a more practical approach. And we also are really tuned into our readers, because we have a brain squad of about 1,000 people. They're all independent retailers. They don't all answer our monthly surveys, but I'd say we get 200 responses every month, and that is so helpful for finding out what they're interested in, and also getting feedback and finding sources for stories I'm working on. I could just say I'm working on this lead story. What are you doing? What are you doing? And like I just finished a story on how to design your store on a shoestring, talking about ways to just make your store look fresher. And so I was able to find a few sources using the Brain Squad.
It's very, if I may add something, it's very interesting how writing features for INSTORE, it's so dramatically different from the other publications. I mean, INSTORE, it's a lot of little bits, like anywhere from 6 to 9 sections. So they really cover a topic. I wrote about colored stones from them a couple of years ago. And you map out everything in advance, and you pack a lot of sources in there. It's fascinating. That brain squad is incredible. A million years ago, we had the retail panel at JCK, same concept. And to be in constant contact with your audience like that, it's such a rich source of information. So it's wonderful that, it's a great resource, which I will tap into for that repair story.
And the brain squad gets something out of it too. They're able to access all the answers from their peers, and they can learn from what other people are doing. And they also get a free T-shirt after they fill out their first survey.
Aaron, how does GIA go about putting the right feature first in G&G?
So yeah, so except for the special issues, I've not had a whole lot of a hand in deciding that, but having some insight into how they're doing this, I think a lot of it's like Brendan said, what's timely, what's interesting. Things like treatments often tend to be kind of the feature articles if there is something about treatment, because that's usually something that's really relevant to the people reading the magazine. They need to know that their diamond may have this new treatment, or they need to know that their spinel may have been diffused. It's something that's very critical. Beyond that, the feature articles tend to have lots of really good visuals, right? We want something. The visuals are really important because it's a technical journal, and a lot of our readership is not overly technical in their with their background. So we need to help people along a little bit with visuals. So something that's got really nice, pretty pictures is always maybe going to be nudged ahead of a little bit of the other articles in an issue.
Right. Getting good images is one of the biggest challenges for me. My readers want to see more images, more captions, more images, because they're used to a quicker read through, and they're too busy swiping and swiping, and so you got to catch them. Is there a challenge for you? Because you've got this magnificent cover image, what happens if the article isn't ready for that cover image? Do you have a backup plan?
The cover image is usually chosen kind of after the articles are all put together. So they'll make sure they've got everything in place before, there may be a few ideas of what the cover should be. So there's generally a few ideas in everybody's pocket, in G&G's pocket, that they can be pulled from once everything is kind of all set and ready to go. So that's usually not so much of an issue.
Brendan, same thing?
Yeah, I'd say so. We usually decide after the fact, but life's never perfect. And I just had an example where there was an article I was planning on doing for an issue, and the author decided that they'd rather just not go through the trouble of our process and just post their article online. So that was and that was the one we were going to use the cover as the cover thing. And so we had to kind of scramble a little bit, and so sometimes that's just the way it goes.
Yeah. Eileen, are there cover images that you focus on, or is it artwork?
We usually have a model on the cover wearing jewelry, and the photos are submitted by manufacturers and designers, and it goes through a review process, and it's pick the best one or the one that fits our style best.
And so it doesn't sound like you're going to be too worried that it's going to fit whatever's inside.
No, it's not generally related to the story, except once a year in September when we have our Cool Store issue.
Right.
And then we feature the Cool Store winners. But
Yeah.
And June, too.
Sorry. Yes, I'll let Jen talk about June.
Go ahead.
All right, the INSTORE Design Award winner goes, the grand prize winner. That's their one model shot. They shoot themselves for the cover.
And what about Prism magazine? I know it only comes out twice a year. Are you worried about the cover image matching what's inside?
It corresponds to the cover, to the cover story. So in this Tucson edition, it's always going to be the two grand prize winners for the Spectrum Awards. And for Vegas, you know, I plan out what the cover story is going to be, and then when I joined AGTA, we are able to do a little bit of still life photography, which is a real nice, cost-effective way to present beautiful images and just make the you know, largely the loose gems the star, which for this audience and just really hasn't been done. Everyone wants to do model photography, but it's very expensive. And for this audience, it makes sense to focus on loose, and you can do lots of fun, creative things. So we do a little bit of still life photography. We've done some here at the show. We just finished shooting the cover and in the feature opener yesterday, and an hour ago we shot the table of contents. So.
For the Cool Store covers, we used to have them holding a trophy, but the trophy wouldn't be ready yet. So we would substitute a dictionary. But I would go to the stores, and a lot of people didn't have a dictionary, either at home or anywhere. So I was at one store, and I had to go down to a used bookstore and buy the appropriate size book so they could hold it. And then we would Photoshop in the trophy because it wasn't ready yet for them to hold. And then I just gave it back to the bookstore.
Gotta love Photoshop. Okay, so we're here in Tucson. I don't want you to give away any secrets, unless you whisper in my ear. What are you looking for here in Tucson? Aaron?
So Gems and Gemmology always has a Tucson write-up section where we go over everything we saw at the show. There's nothing really specific that we're looking for. We like to report on overall trends. So what was hot, what was moving, changes in consumer preferences. Were people looking for teal stones this year, or they want this color or that color? If there are new things, new material come out in the market, we like to include that in there. And then, beyond that, just things that are kind of exceptional, things that are unusual or really out of the ordinary that you don't really expect. The talk of the town in Tucson.
So you're wandering.
Yeah.
Okay. Eileen?
Well, we don't really regularly cover gem trends. So I'm here primarily for story ideas and networking and to make contacts.
Brendan?
Same here. And also, we really try to focus on what's new, as far as if there's a new gem material that's hitting the market, maybe a new mine, something. Those are the things I'm really looking for. And I have to tell you, every year it gets harder and harder. It's so few new discoveries that are coming out now. So it's making my job challenging.
And there's so much to cover as well here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm focusing on AGTA, GJX right now while they're open, but then I do try to get around to some of the other shows. I've got a total of 10 days, and I'm always running to the airport, getting on the plane from the last show, kicking myself for not talking to, this person, that person, because there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
There's not enough time.
Jen,
Someone
same
said,
thing?
yeah, someone said today, how do you like this long show? I'm like, it's never enough time for me. You want to be thorough and be really good at your job, you have to see everything. So you just walk up and down the aisle, and I just want to eyeball everything so I don't miss something. And then when I see something I haven't seen before, then I'll stop and then I'll talk to them. So yeah, it's a lot of, it's just walking, a lot of steps, talking to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you try to walk as fast as you can without missing anything.
Yes, yeah, without stopping. People are, hey, sorry.
Let's talk about important stories that have happened over the last several months. Eileen, I know that you and I have been kind of back and forth about America's coolest stores. You want to tell them what that's all about? Sounds like it's one of the biggest features in INSTORE.
It does take up a lot of my time. It's we have a contest that is open to retailers between January and March, and they submit photos and the story about their store and their business, and we have a panel of industry judges that selects the winners. And then 6 winners are featured in September. And then we run a cool store story about a store and the business every month, well, the other 10 months. So we have a total of 16 winners, which is great, and it's a good way to have your store featured. And there's 2 categories. One is for big stores and one is for small stores. And it's based on the number of employees. So a store with a really small budget. It's just creative in how they've set it up and creative in how they do other aspects of their business. It's not all how the store looks. It's also marketing and operations, staffing. So we cover all aspects of the business. So we've had like all kinds of ranges of stores who have won.
That's great. Jen, I assume that it's the Spectrum Award winners that's the big story for the year? Or is there something that's happened in the last couple of months that...
Just the rise of color is really what, AGTA is excited about. So, and then Rapaport, their core is diamonds, so they're very excited about. A lot of stories written about that. And that, the lab-grown versus mined situation has been fascinating as a writer, because maybe 3 years ago, you write an article, and I remember when JCK, the show, created the lab-grown diamond section, and it started, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember year over year for a rap article, I compared how much it had grown, and it was just crazy, the growth within a year. And then, the numbers start to dwindle because of what's happening. It's just fascinating to watch that happen within 2 to 3 years' time, such dramatic changes in how the prices, you write about prices and what retailers are selling them for. 6 months later, it's like night and day. It's just a fascinating roller coaster to report on.
And the RapNet story that came out this week with AGTA kind of joining forces, putting gemstones on RapNet.
Putting gemstones on RapNet, yeah, it's a big project. They've been working on that for about a year and a half. And they said there's a lot of stones, thousands of gemstones online already. And I mean, it sounds, could be a great opportunity for people. So to reach a broader audience, and there is data on the number people are more interested in color, and obviously with the drop of diamond prices and people aren't selling as many, it's an opportunity for this category. So I think they were kind of looking ahead, and it could be a great thing for the members. For a lot of people, you don't have to be a member to take part in that, but it'll be interesting to see. I know some sales have happened, I've heard, so it'll be interesting to see how well it's received.
Yeah. Brendan, is there a particular feature story that sort of sticks out as being one of the really top read stories?
A couple articles, or a couple issues ago, we did an article on the new emeralds from Musakashi in Zambia. And what's neat about these emeralds is, Zambia's been an emerald producer for decades, and most of them come from this biotite schist type deposit. But Musakashi is a totally different geology, and actually it produces emeralds that are really difficult to tell apart from Colombian. And they have the 3-phase inclusions, similar color range. And so the SSCF lab came up with a really nice study where they looked in depth at the inclusions and the chemistry and the spectra and things. And they really nailed it as far as you can separate them, it's okay, it's not a problem, as long as you apply these rigorous combination of techniques. So that was neat to see.
But the emeralds are really nice. Is there a lot of production there?
There's not. That's the other thing. It kind of comes and goes, and right, there could be more, but right now there's been some ownership disputes with the mining areas, so we'll see what happens.
And this is in Zambia?
In Zambia, yeah.
And they just put a 15% tariff on everything,
It's not going to help.
Man, making it difficult. Aaron, what's one of the top stories from G&G?
I think the most exciting thing from the last year was our special issue, which just got released here in Tucson. So that was on advanced instrumentation. So
That's the cover that's up here?
Yeah, that's the cover up there. It's basically going over, there's articles for all the different techniques we use in the lab to characterize, identify gemstones, look for treatments, look for geographic origin, which goes in depth, but not too in depth. So it's still kind of hopefully accessible to most of our readers.
So it's readable.
So it's readable, yeah. It's okay. Still somewhat dense compared to an ordinary issue of Gems and Gemmology, but we wanted this to be out there as a reference. And our education department is also interested in using this as kind of almost a textbook kind of thing for an advanced gemology course that they're developing as well. So that's probably the most interesting, exciting thing that's come out like in the last year.
Great. I'll look forward to reading it. Getting down to the last couple of questions. Is your publication just print, online, both? Why? GG?
Gems and Gemology is in print, online, so both of them, and importantly, it's completely free online, so anybody can go in and get access to any of the articles. And the reason why we do that is basically we have the resources to do it. So GI is a pretty big company, and we are able to offer it free to anybody. So it's it's a privilege to be able to do that, and I'm happy that G&G is able to do that.
Yeah. Eileen, INSTORE?
INSTORE is free to independent retailers who are subscribers, and we also have a Digimag online, and we promote the stories in other ways through email bulletins and on social media.
Yeah. Brendan?
So the Journal of Gemmology is both print and online, and it's free online if you go prior to 2 years ago. Anything within the last 2 years has been reserved for GEMA members only. So you join as a member of GEMA. You don't have to complete an FGA or anything. You just join as an associate member, or associate member, and then you can receive the journal as well as GEMA's other trade publication called Gems and Jewelry.
I know that magazine. Jen?
We have just the 2 print issues of Prism. Rapaport has gone down to 6 print issues a year. AGTA, we do 2 original stories each week, and Rap has a daily newsletter.
Online?
Online, yeah, digital newsletter.
Okay. Do you guys use social media at all? LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube? Do you do any of that stuff? Jen, how much time do you spend on it, and what do you do?
Jen has done a lot of our social media shows. She could talk about that too.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm able to join the INSTORE team and help them do some little social media. AGTA hired, I have a wonderful helper for social media, so I'm very good. I can get by on social media. I do things for INSTORE, but I have someone who's even better than me. And between the 2 of us, I know the people. I can persuade them to talk about things, and so I can extract the information and write it up. And then my friend is outstanding with the camera. We're just using an iPhone, and you should check out some of the AGTA. We've done 2 reels a night. For the first, we did 1 reel Sunday night, and then 2 reels every night this week, and then 15 stories a day. And it's not just, we've done some where you just throw a picture up there, but we really, my friend and I, we kind of feed off each other and get a little silly, and we've done some really fun things to showcase people's personalities. Like, does anyone know Rod Griffin, the Boulder Opal guy? Did you see that, Gary?
I didn't see it, but I know Rod Griffin. So.
Okay, so we did a story. We're encouraging people to, let's make jewelry more approachable. So Rod Griffin, he's kind of a personality. We said, Rod, we want to do something fun with you for social media. So what music do you like? Well, they're from Australia. So we get an AC/DC song, and the whole family is just being silly. Rod picks up a big boulder opal and pretends he takes a bite out of it. And then his wife is here with they're just being silly. And a 15-second story on Instagram. And it just really, it makes people more approachable. I got Raja from AG Gems to do a Saturday Night Fever thing. And it just, with the jewelry, it's just a fun, lighthearted way to show jewelry instead of very stiff and formal. So we're doing a lot of that stuff. Does anyone know Aziz Bezalioli from Alico Pearl? That is living in that. I think my career, I can be done now because I persuaded Aziz to do the silliest thing, and it is living in the AGTA feed as a reel. And that's all I'm going to say, but it's just brought me such joy that I was able to get him to do that. So,
Brendan?
We actually, GEMA has a person that does social media, and so when we release a new issue of the journal, we'll definitely be tweeting and Facebooking about that, and it's on LinkedIn as well. And then occasionally we'll take a feature like a gem note or something and put that out there as well. So.
Eileen?
We use it for show coverage, particularly the INSTORE show in Chicago. And we also use it to promote stories, but our plan is to do more with it in the future.
Aaron?
So Gems and Gemmology has our own Facebook group where and I'm one of the admins, and we're able to go in and basically post whatever we want. So we've been doing a pretty good job this Tucson, getting a post up every day to show people what we saw and a little background on it. But this also where we can highlight a lot of the articles from the issues, and we also, so in addition to that, we work closely with our marketing department to get things on, Instagram and LinkedIn as appropriate.
Beautiful. Gosh, guys, I can't thank you enough. This has been great. Give them a round of applause, please. Now let's open it up for questions. What would you like to hear? What would you like to see in their publications? Or do you have any ideas, or did you see something here in Tucson that they need to cover? Questions, comments? We wore you out?
Have you seen the show, not the GJX, but all the minerals? The show with the minerals?
Well, there are several, but if you're pointing that direction,
Which direction I'm sitting? It's like an incredible mineral, like the top of the line, and just down the street.
Pueblo show or the 22nd?
It's Fine Minerals International is one of those old houses, craftsman style houses. And then next door is the Granada Gallery. They also have some beautiful things.
The
Yeah,
gallery,
yeah.
both, the gallery is
Both incredible things there to see. It's like a museum. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's in a museum. It's on museum.
It's also an interesting place to get educated on how much the prices have gone up.
And also about gemology and I didn't know Japan has stones. Yeah, it's fantastic. And this year they found, in 2023, not this year, they found in California pieces of rocks with dead bugs. So grasshopper and frogs and caterpillar. At that time there was a moment that they were hibernated, and when they came out, it was a flood, and they drowned. So now in 2023, they found those pieces.
And I understand
So that was new and fresh.
they've been like recrystallized into some kind of an evaporite mineral or something. I heard about something like this. I saw the pictures of the frogs. Yeah, yeah,
It's there.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Cool. Any other comments? Suggestions? All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.